Hello, friends. This is me, your host. Welcome back to our channel. I hope you all are well and doing great. So, today I'm back with another video to give a review on another book, which is Reaching Down the Rabbit Hole. This book is by Allan, Ropper, and B.D. Burrell. 6 Improbable Things Before Breakfast. Arrivals, departures, and delays on the ward. On the 3rd of July, a day after a routine colonoscopy, Vincent Thelma was playing right field in a company softball game. A short, intense man with thick grey hair and a perpetual scowl. He did not look as though he was having fun or even capable of having any fun. Whenever a teammate said something amusing or cracked a joke, Vincent would laugh without smiling, as if to say, "Funny, funny, ha ha." When he disagreed with a call by the umpire, he would throw up his arms in disbelief, kick the dirt, and swear under his breath, not for show or for the approbation of his teammates, but out of real anger and disgust. No one called him Vinny. Few called him Vincy, and when he stood at the plate, none of his teammates dared to cheer him on by name. As the game wound into the late innings, Vincent's behavior began to change. Certainly at first, then dramatically. By the time he was dropped off at his house, his wife was startled to see a bemused look on his face, an air of innocence in place of his usual gruffiness. He gave one-word answers to her questions, avoided eye contact, and seemed quite unlike himself. He was smiling too much. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Sure, fine," he replied. Did you win? Fine, yes. Did something happen? Fine. The more she persisted, the more Vincent perseverated. Did anything happen at the game? Fine, yeah, fine, he mumbled with a sheepish smile. She called their primary care physician, who told her to get him to the emergency room immediately. Vincent, we need to go, she said. Fine, okay. Still smiling. Like a hole in the head, where baseball and neurology converge in a game saving over the shoulder catch. On Tuesday, at Chef's Rounds, a weekly ritual that takes place in the department library, Elliot handed me 2 tickets to the Red Sox Mariners game. A 7:30 p.m. start. Like every home game, this one was sold out, but Elliot has season tickets. Although temperatures had already hit the 90s, by game time they would be in the low 80s, then back down into the 70s by the stretch. With clear skies and a crescent moon, it promised to be the kind of idyllic Boston evening that you dream about in mid-February and feel entitled to be early July. It should not come as a shock that the daily routine at a teaching hospital does not much resemble the tightly choreographed 1-hour dramas that dominate primetime TV schedules. The sheer numbers of patients, their tendency to pass in and out of our service due to medical rather than plot driven priorities. Restricts our time with each one of them, and sometimes scatters our focus. During those 2 weeks, Hannah would often tell me that if she simply had the time, she could crack some of our most baffling cases. If not for the paperwork and the bureaucratic overhead, perhaps she could have. But time is a luxury, and sometimes it feels as though our primary function is just to check off boxes on a never ending punch list. As I said to one of the new residents, you may get the idea. That we are constantly draining the swamp. The state of confusion. I can't take it anymore, he said. Can't take what? A lot of the kids there, a lot of the kids, a lot of people not around here now, but not like that one. What's your name, fella? Gordon. Where do you live? Dorchester? Okay, Gordon, what's your address? I can't remember what the address was. How about your address, where your house is? Well, they kind of changed a little bit because they are not quite as good as. By next week, I think it would be really perfect. People would be able to understand what these things are. What things? You don't have no idea. You haven't even thought of it. Or anything else. Every person in this world, unless they have had health problems, they are done. It's true. You should come down here. You sit there and look. The intelligent person would be a person just sitting there and looking. Just like that. To the surgeon's trained eye, Gordon, did not look drunk. Nor did he look sick or delirious or drugged. My man, Godfrey, a poor sort of memory that only works backwards. In the late 1970s, I had a patient, a salesman who drove from Philadelphia to Boston unwittingly. And made it as far as Leverett Circle, a traffic rotary near Massachusetts General Hospital, where he got stuck driving around and around for almost an hour. Eventually, a policeman noticed him, pulled him over, and said, "Is everything okay?" Eventually, a policeman noticed him, pulled him over, and said, "Is everything okay?" The man replied, "I don't how I got here." The policeman had the good sense to send him to the emergency room, where he was examined by a junior resident, found nothing amiss beyond the memory loss. Concluding that it was an episode of transient global amnesia, OTGA, a dramatic but entirely benign condition. The resident came to me to approve a discharge in anticipation of the expected return of the patient's memory. Although it may sound serious, transient global amnesia can be set off in a variety of ways, has no obvious cause, and will usually resolve within hours, leaving no permanent damage. I asked what the problem was. Hannah said. And that's exactly what she said. I feel fine. How did I get here? So I explained that her friend brought her in because she seemed to be behaving oddly, and she thanked me. All of the social graces were there: voice modulation, natural body posture, alertness, eye contact. Everything seemed normal until 30 seconds later when she said it again. I feel fine. How did I get there? I told her that her friend thought something was wrong. Hannah continued. I asked her whether she had a sense that she was confused, and she said, I feel a little odd, but I think I am okay. What's your name? Where do you live? Who is the president? How many fingers am I holding up? Do no harm. A walking time bomb tests the limits of good sense. It was a hazy, humid, and windless mid-August afternoon. Baked hot, as the locals like to say. At a Carstone front end shop on Huntington Avenue. Ruby and Tony rolled under a Monte Carlo and sent to work on the transmission. Because the garage had only one working lift and it was occupied. Ruby had the front of the car jacked. As he was pulling the drive shaft out, at the moment of maximum strain, he felt the sudden onrush of a headache so intense that he thought his head would explode. Barely able to roll himself out on the dolly, he summoned all of his strength to hold himself up against the standing tool cabinet. Where nausea overtook him and he vomited clear across the workway. Holy shit, Ruby, his boss said. What's going on? Faked headache, man. I have no idea where that came from. We have got to get you to a hospital. No, man, I'll be alright. But he sure as hell didn't look alright. By the time his objections had been overcome and he had arrived at the emergency room at Boston City Hospital, the headache was almost gone. In a casual exam turned up nothing. Ruby was so evasive and in such a hurry to get home that the intern became suspicious, thinking it was probably drugs. The doctor then ordered a CT scan as a routine precaution. It came back normal and Ruby was discharged. He was fine, or so he thought. Nine songs of innocence. Look, listen, feel. On the first day of my second year of medical school at Cornell, I was sitting in the next to the last row of a small, steeply sloped auditorium. A legendary cardiologist, an internist named Elliot Houston, was on stage preparing to teach a course on physical diagnosis. How to properly examine a patient. For some reason, the lighting in the back of the hall didn't work quite right, so the stage, the speaker, the back rows thought not dark but dim. It reminded me of a baseball stadium when the sun casts a shadow. Across the infield. I used to say, to avoid this, we were required to meet individually and in small groups with the psychiatrist. Mine, a very prominent older therapist, was a dud, and I got very little out of our sessions. But one of my colleagues, a very empathic guy who eventually went into oncology, but one of my colleagues, a very empathic guy who eventually went into oncology, was more fortunate. In one of his sessions, he was sitting across the room from the shrink, articulating how much trouble he was having with his patient's anger. Their problems, their complaints. The psychiatrist didn't say a thing, but he took a fancy fountain pen out of his shirt pocket and held it out in front of him at arm's length, as though presenting it. He just held it there. My friend, who was about 26, or 27 at the time, got up from his chair, walked over to the psychiatrist, and took the pen. And came, facing down Lou Gehrig's disease. Louis Nagel had been kicking around doctors' offices and emergency rooms for 3 months, complaining of breathing trouble while climbing stairs. She was referred to pulmonary and cardiac experts who could not sort out the case. Understandably frustrated, she came into the emergency department one night at about 8, after almost choking to death on a dinner of cubed chicken, peas and rice. Hannah was a senior resident on duty when we entered Mrs. Is it Lou Gehrig's disease? Well, there is certainly a possibility. Why do you bring that particular disease up? I looked on the web and it said that Lou Gehrig's disease could cause muscle weakness, twitching, and sometimes make it hard to breathe. The web is usually wrong. Why don't we wait and see? But what if it is Lou Gehrig's? What's going to happen? There are many ways things can go, so why don't we just make you more comfortable tonight until we can sort it out. To my relief, the act of talking so exhausted her that she ended the conversation. How did she know? It reminded me of a ridiculous joke I had heard on The Sopranos. What are the chances My next thought was that she was probably a wonderful person and that this diagnosis rather cruelly proved it. Elliot was on a roll, so the guy says, I'm in pain. Pain. I can't touch here, I can't touch there. My whole body, it hurts and it's just killing me, and the wife is saying, oh baby, tell the doctor about that other doctor you saw. And they hand me a paper that says Decram's disease. I nodded at the reference, a condition with multiple little lipomas or benign soft tissue tumors that can be very painful. She says, that's what he has, that's what you have. So they show up here. Listen to this. Listen to this. They drive all the way up there from Mississippi with no place to stay, no money, no insurance. And they tell me, we are staying in Boston until you solve it. Now this is a guy with no intellectual capacity at all, a moron, and he goes on the internet and he finds his but Decram's disease, I heard all over. I have got Decram's disease. He's walking like a banshee. It was the most disembodied type of nonsense. Latent, of course, what he's got is a major psychiatric problem as well as being a nut. This passes for conversation sometimes. We get all kinds of patients, some of whom we help to live, some of whom we help to die. Some of whom we can't help at all. All we can do is listen. Before Elliot could get any more traction with his tale of woe, a rumpled old guy in a trench coat materialized by his right shoulder, and as if Elliot wasn't even there, as if he didn't happen to be right in the middle of a sentence, which he was said to me. Somebody just pointed you out and said, when this man has a friend in need, that's a man he stays away from. Is that true? That is true, I replied automatically. And do you know that for a fact? No. But somebody pointed you out. And is your name Henny, young man? I asked him. I used to write for Henny when he lived on 35 East 35th Street. By the looks of him, that was entirely credible. The first joke I wrote for him. I ate at his house and his wife was the world's worst cook. And I said, now I know why you say your prayers after you eat. Very good. I thought, even though it's a Myron Cohen joke, but good enough that I returned the volley. I couldn't help myself. My secretary just buzzed me and said, Doctor, there is a man out here who thinks he's invisible. Tell him I can't see him. On the front lines in the battle against Dr. Parkinson's disease. She is standing on the main floor of Grand Central Station at the base of the West Stairs. With her right hand on her hip and her left hand propped on the marble balustrade, frozen in the posture of a teapot. She has missed her stop and is trying to decide whether she can find her way back without phoning someone, without asking for help. A moot point, because she knows that for the moment, in this crowded, familiar place that is now so unfamiliar, she may not be able to speak the words forming in her head. She has to suppress the panic and start over, revisit the plan for the day. What happened to Gordon Stever? He asks me. He's dead, I say, hoping to head him off, but he won't have it. I know, but how? No idea. Did we ever find out what he had? No, I say. No one claimed the body. No one asked for permission for an autopsy. You know what bowling alley he used to manage though, right? Yes, we do. What about going down there and asking around about him? That would be against the privacy rules. I tell him, but I know what he is building up to. I don't see how boiling could be a violation of anybody's privacy. Let's go. How about tomorrow? 2 strings. You roll on shabows, don't you? Elliot has no intention of going bowling. He will probably spend the day reading, cooking, drinking scotch, and periodically looking out over the Atlantic Ocean from his arts and crafts home in Manchester by the sea. But I know that he's been waiting all over week to ask me that question, maybe all month, and as he knows very well, I roll on one day of the week. One of the world's leading neurologists reveals extraordinary stories behind some of the brain disorders that he and his staff and the Harvard Medical School endeavor to treat. What is it like to heal the body when the mind is under attack? In this gripping and illuminating book, Dr. Allan Ropper reveals the extraordinary stories behind some of the life-altering afflictions that he and his staff are confronted with at the neurology unit of Harvard's Brigham and Women's Hospital. Like Alice in Wonderland, Dr. Ropper inhabits a place where absurdities abound. A sportsman who starts spouting gibberish, an undergraduate who suddenly becomes psychotic, a mother who has to decide like Alice in Wonderland. Dr. Ropper inhabits a place where absurdities abound. A sportsman who starts spouting gibberish, an undergraduate who suddenly becomes psychotic, a mother who has to decide whether a life locked inside her own head is worth living. How does one begin to treat such cases? To counsel people whose lives may be changed. Dr. Ropper answers these questions by taking the reader in a world where lives and minds hang in the balance. Ropper sees his job as reaching to pull patients from their otherworldly halls of neurological dysfunction. In doing so, he is more than content with 6 improbable things that must be confronted each morning. And the improbables are what makes this book so memorable, including a gag that may help readers understand its provenance. In this book, the pictures of Ropper's routine clinical work in a very busy professional life are created with the help of a co-author, thought necessary because no physician in the moment can serve the patient and the story. The venture required someone who was willing to follow Ropper at work to experience life on the ward with me, even without me. "70% of the dialogue is verbatim, 20% recollected, and 10% extrapolated. Some of the case histories are borrowed from colleagues. Although its aim is not to be an as told to book, it has in parts the feel of an as heard by a journalist account. Brian Burrell, the co-author, Brian Burrell, the co-author, is described as having a lyrical talent for making true stories sing, which is perhaps as much a warning as a recommendation. So this is all we have from this book. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, don't forget to press the like button, and I'll be back with another video with another book to give a review on. If you wanted to buy all these best-selling books, you can visit our Amazon page, BestBook4u. So I'll be back. Till then, just take care and goodbye.